Hello everyone, this your friend Saiyan Nexus Audio Fanfic, and we are back in new fanfic. What if a documentary filmmaker entered Dragon Ball Z Part 1? It begins. Welcome to the chaos. A rule of thumb for any of you out there who wake up to find yourself suddenly living in an anime: take stock before you panic. First, determine what anime you are in. This is the most important thing because, quite frankly, there are some anime where, no matter who you are or your role in it may be, you are screwed. I don't know about you, but no amount of funny wires that let me run along buildings will make up for the world gone to hell and cannibal giants eating my loved ones. At least that's what I assume Attack on Titan is about. It might be about DC fans trying to get Teen Titans Go cancelled for all I know. Now, maybe some of you really want to end up in one of those emo worlds where humanity is doomed and you know that half of the people you meet will be dead before it is done because you want to live out your Hunger Games fantasies, whatever floats your boat. Me, I openly admit I am lazy and would much rather have an easy time of it. Now, if you are in an anime world that isn't one big giant ball of suck, I then suggest determining if you are a main character or just one of those random bystanders that is in the background. It might sound all neat to be in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Universe until you realize that you aren't going to be in the tournaments and instead will be having your soul ripped out by Yami Bakura and then Darts and the Zork. Rinse, repeat, cash the friggin' check. I know a lot of people who end up sucked into anime worlds end up with stands or sailing with Luffy, but that's only because everyone who doesn't hit the jackpot when it comes to entering a fictional world dies a painful death and doesn't get a chance to share their tale. Or at the very least, it doesn't get good reviews. Finally, check to see if you are yourself. Sometimes you get to keep your body, sometimes you end up as Ash Ketchum. Keechum, whatever. My point is that matters too because it is going to make things both easier and harder. Yeah, real cool to suddenly be Tai leading the Digidestine, but then you realize that you lost all the muscle memory you used to have, so your desire to punch that monkey radio host in the face is going to end very badly. Tai wasn't a runner is all I'm saying. I'm personally glad I was just younger when this all started for me. But I'm getting slightly ahead of myself. You need to think these things through before you panic. Because your magical adventure, this site needs a button to make clear one is being sarcastic, isn't going to be so awe-inspiring if you spend the entire time locked in a padded room while doctors decide if they should put the straitjacket on you before or after the enema. Now, I can't claim that I followed these rules when I found myself sucked into my oh so wonderful odyssey. Yeah, I'd like to claim I was all aloof and shit because that would make me sound cool and a badass, but I am going to be honest with you all because you guys deserve that, and frankly I figure laughing at me will get me more reviews. Innocent smile. My rude awakening started in the passenger seat of a flying car. Hey, a young woman's voice called out, causing me to start awake, looking about rapidly as I tried to get my bearings. You're going to want to get ready because we are almost there. I frowned, looking about the front of the car we were in, which looked too complex for a normal vehicle but too simple for an airplane. I had the sneaking suspicion that some of the buttons and dials were just for show. Through the windshield all I saw was blue ocean, and a small speck of land in the distance. So listen, I know my friends are going to seem all exciting and all that, but don't forget that you are here to film me, okay? She flashed me a charming smile that I had the feeling she spent hours every morning practicing in front of a mirror. So make sure that drone of yours doesn't go wandering off. Right, I said slowly, looking back to see a small blue egg-shaped drone hovering behind me. A pair of spindly arms that were utterly impractical but I just knew would be able to lift up a car sticking out of its sides and a little antenna on the top. In the front and center of it was some glass with a black eye, with a lilac pupil. Very much the stereotypical 1980s design for a robot. Am I good to check on it? Yeah, sure. The woman, who I had quickly realized upon truly looking at her was Bulma Briefs from Dragon Ball, said with a grin. Judging by her outfit and age, that meant we were at the very beginning of the saga. You're in Dragon Ball Z, I thought to myself, wondering why I wasn't panicking more. I could tell this wasn't a dream, as too many of my senses were feeding my information for it to be so. Yet the fact that I was in a fictional work wasn't having me break down into sobs as I rocked back and forth in a corner. Maybe it's just the way this world works, or whatever force dragged me kicking and screaming into this place. I looked down at my hands, which weren't shaking in the slightest. Steady as a rock. I knew I should feel anxiety, but it was like something had locked those worries away. Bulma didn't notice my ponderings and just kept talking. You don't need to be strapped in when I'm flying this baby. Right on cue, a seagull suddenly appeared in front of us and Bulma let out a cry, jerking the steering wheel and causing the flying car to shudder and tremble as it dove down before righting itself. Watch where you are flying, you jerk. Bulma roared, glaring backwards even though we were already nearly a mile past the avian. Deciding not to say anything lest I get yelled at, I undid my buckle and moved to the back of the, well, I could tell it was larger than a car, so more like a flying van I supposed, and headed towards the drone that was hovering in the back. So, I'm hoping you can talk. I can, sir, the drone said back with a polite, vaguely British accent. Far more than you can, and in a more dignified way. Awesome. I already knew I was going to love the little guy. So let's pretend I have no idea what is going on. Act like you are an idiot. Understood. I didn't word it like that. Act like you are a gigantic clod. Not helping, I grumbled. Act like you are the dumbest sack of meat on this entire planet. I get it, I snapped. Now then, doing that, who am I? Who are you? And what are we doing here? The drone considered me for a moment. You are Avo Chaos, documentarian. I am your camera drone, Isco. Together we have produced 6 highly acclaimed movies about famous figures in our world. After our last one, about General Vincent of the White Tail Brigade, we were hired by Bulma Briefs to create a documentary about her life. That makes sense, I thought to myself. Or at least as much sense as me waking up in the world of Dragon Ball. I glanced at my reflection in Isco's mirrored surface and saw I basically looked the same, though younger. Late 20s, most likely. But same blonde hair, same gray-blue eyes, same circle beard. Even my clothing was rather normal, with blue jeans and purple t-shirt with the words Chaos Films printed on it. I wasn't some strange alien creature or a magical ball of chocolate or anything else that Dragon Ball could have thrown at me. Just a normal human being. I blinked. Ah, I'm a normal human. We're coming in for a landing. Bulma called out and I shared a look with Isco before returning quickly to my seat. So I went over everyone that was going to be here, right? Son Goku, Krillin, Master Roshi, I said, ticking off the people I remembered arriving for the reunion. Right. But remember, I'm the star of this documentary. Goku might be some amazing martial artist, but you better remember who is paying you to film all this. She flashed me a dark look and I quickly nodded. I didn't think I was ever going to get used to anime women being able to bring the wrath of the gods upon people. It took only a minute for Bulma to land, and once she did, she leapt out of the vehicle and onto the sands of Kame House, throwing out her hands and grinning, only for no one to appear. Those jerks, she growled, balling her hands into fists. They are supposed to come out here and greet me and tell me how wonderful I look. Maybe they are letting you have a dramatic entrance, I suggested, and at once Bulma perked up. Right, she beamed. That's perfect. She hurried to the open door, calling out to Master Roshi and Krillin that she was there while Isco floated over to me. That was an impressive lie, sir. Tell her the truth and she'll kill us both, I muttered through clamped together teeth. Understood. Wise suggestion. Chaos, come on in. Bulma called out from Kame House and Isco and I moved to join her inside. Clearly she had been in the middle of a conversation when she'd noticed us lingering, as when we entered she was telling the 2 men, with him. He's more interested in his fangirls than he is for me. Making no time for me at all. So Yamcha and we are done. This was his last chance. We're meeting each other after 5 years and he can't drag himself away from his adoring public. Well, they can give him all the love because he won't get any of mine. Oh, Master Roshi said, looking me up and down when he noticed me. And is this your new boyfriend? What? Bulma said, turning to stare at me. No, of course not. This is just chaos. Thank you, Bulma, that was very kind to stomp on my worth as a man, I snarked. I didn't mean it like that. Bulma exclaimed with a huff. I know you're married to your job. She turned back to her friends. This is Chaos and Isco. I asked them to film a documentary. All about us, Krillin said with a grin, stepping forward only for Bulma to push him away. All about me, Bulma corrected. They are going to document my life as the world's smartest woman, premier inventor, and most eligible bachelorette. And most humble girl on the planet, Krillin muttered only for Bulma to turn on him and begin to scream at him about how she was, as humble pie. So, Bulma told you all about us, right? Master Roshi asked as the two bickered. While there was a ton of heat to her words, I could also tell that it came from a place of love. If you mean did she tell me to be glad I have a instead of a vagina, then yes, she told me all about you. Roshi started at that while Bulma and Krillin laughed at the old man who said nothing to counter my claim, their earlier fight forgotten instantly. So, what do you guys have planned for today? I asked as I began to move around the room, taking on the role of documentarian, to get them talking. Isco slowly moved around, taking everything in. Of course the question was meaningless. I already knew that whatever they had planned would get tossed into the garbage can the moment Raditz showed up. That bastard is going to cause a whole lot of problems, almost everything that came after can be tied back to him. I mean, the androids aren't truly his fault, but with King Cold and Frieza's DNA cell wouldn't have been as much of a probably. Hell, without Vegeta's DNA. I frowned as Bulma and Krillin discussed what beach games they should play and if it was wise to even try with Goku participating. Except, without Namek and all that, Goku and Piccolo would be so weak Gero himself probably could defeat him, meaning that we'd get history of Trunks, possibly without Trunks. I mentally cursed myself, both for the fact that I was already thinking about changing things to try and protect more people and that I needed certain things to happen to prepare everyone for the threats to come. Hell, Boo is completely unrelated to Raditz, so this entire world is Ed if Dobby or Dabby or whatever his name was returns to bring him back to life with Bobbity. It was utterly frustrating. Make a move to try and make things easier and run the risk of making things worse. But there was just as much danger in relying on things to remain the same only for the mere fact that I existed in the world to cause things to radically alter. Chaos theory was in full force, with my tiny changes causing massive alterations. And after that there will be the barbecue, Krillin continued before looking at Bulma. You did remember to bring the food, right? He paused. And the barbecue. I have a barbecue, Roshi complained. Yeah, if you call that rusted out trash can a barbecue. Of course I brought the food. As if I could rely on you two to get it. Bulma said. If it were up to you to all we'd have is jerky and beer. We'd also have some cake, Krillin protested. Bulma scoffed at that. Why do you always expect me to buy the food nowadays anyway? Hey, Krillin complained. We haven't seen you in 5 years. Because if you had seen me you'd have made me buy all the food. Roshi chimed in. Well, you are far richer than us. I might have a nice place out here but it doesn't exactly make me a ton of cash. And if I tried to feed Goku I'd have to spend a month fishing. I couldn't know, I said casually, if you set up a few more little islands you could probably make a killing renting them out. Roshi said, looking at me. Make a few more islands. Not that hard for someone of your skill, Isco commented. Or, perhaps, it is. You could have lost your touch. Lost my touch. What are ya gettin' on about? I ain't lost nothing. There is no reason to get upset, Isco said simply. It happens to all men as they get older. Unable to stand tall and strong and proud. Rise to the occasion. Be solid. They droop. Roshi's face turned red with fury. Why you no good tin-plated? I am not tin-plated, Isco stated. Not helping, I muttered. So, Krillin said slowly, looking at Bulma. Yes, I remember the food, she said, pulling out a case from her pocket. Along with the barbecue grill. I had to keep them as capsules. Like Roshi said, if I tried to haul all of Goku's supply alone, I'd have needed to bring a freighter. I hope you have enough, Krillin said worriedly. You know how he gets. Don't worry. So long as we don't tell him just how much food we brought, we can tuck away enough for us to have plenty. Maybe distract him so you guys can eat first. I suggested as Roshi continued to argue with Isco. Hey, that's a great idea. Bulma snapped her fingers. Now then, let's get some of the introductions out of the way, that way we can have fun and not worry about needing to be pulled aside. Introductions? Krillin asked. For the documentary, people need to know who everyone is. Oh, Isco. She waved at the drone. Come over here, please. That's right. Run ya spark an egg. Roshi hollered. Thanks for saying please, at least, I whispered. Treat machines with respect. That's my motto, Bulma said, and I grinned. Oh, I could get along with her just fine. We're going to film some introductions, okay. Isco bobbed in what I assumed was a nod, and Bulma opened her mouth before I raised my hand to stop her. Let me. I cleared my throat. Introductions. Bulma. I pointed at her and she smiled. Well, we already did this once, but hey, can't hurt to do it multiple times. Hi, she waved. I'm Bulma Briefs, genius inventor and heir to the Capsule Corporation. I don't mind getting my hands dirty, but don't think that means I can't clean up all nice, as you can see. She gestured at her outfit, which just screamed 1980s Miami Vice. Honestly, I was ready for Huggy Bear to be the next threat to the world. Krillin, I said, pointing at the short fighter. Oh, hey, Krillin said awkwardly. What should I say? Just a general introduction, I told him. Like if I asked you to, in one sentence, describe who you were and your profession. Ah, okay. Krillin blushed a little. This is so weird though, feel like a movie star. I'm Krillin and I'm Goku and Bulma's friend, though I guess you guys haven't met Goku yet. Or maybe you have. I guess you could put these anywhere. He shifted, utterly nervous. Hey, oh, I'm also Master Roshi's student. Or I was, you know. Not anymore, though he does teach me things still, I guess I'll always be his student. Anyway, I don't really have a day job at the moment, as I mostly get by competing in tournaments, but I guess I need to find something to do soon and, yeah, that's it. That was horrible, Bulma stated. Oh come on, Krillin shouted. I didn't spend all my time practicing it in a mirror like some people. I did not. Yeah, just keep lying. Roshi shoved the two away. Hello ladies. He crooned as he looked right at Isco. I am Master Roshi, head of the Turtle School of Martial Arts. I enjoy long walks on the beach and moonlit dinners. I'm partial to blondes, but this isn't a dating video. Bulma screamed right in Roshi's ear. Said the girl using it to get a new boyfriend. Krillin teased. That's different. Isco turned to me. Who have you gotten us tangled up with? Someone who is very rich, I told him. Want a new body that can't be shattered. I retract my complaints and also my earlier comment about your intelligence, sir. Hey guys. A familiar voice called out from the outside of Kame House. Goku. Krillin cried out, and Isco and I found ourselves alone in Roshi's home as the three stampeded out to greet their friend. I took a far more casual pace, lingering behind them as they asked Goku about Gohan and reacted to him being his son. God, he's so young, I thought to myself. The anime had never really been good at showing ages, save perhaps for Gohan. Unless it was a radical change, most of the characters looked the same, age-wise, save for Chi-Chi, who kept getting the low end of the stick when it came to aging gracefully. By the time of Super, she had looked more like Goku's mom than his wife, while Bulma hadn't hardly aged at all, and retcons about the Dragon Balls didn't count. Goku in the anime had always been seen as a bit of a manchild by the audience due to his attitude, but seeing him there in the flesh, not paper and ink, I could see just how little he had lived in the world. He was in his mid-20s and looked every inch of it, and I knew that in a year the weight of the galaxy would be placed on his shoulders. It was so unfair. Especially when you see how happy he is right now. I watched as Goku knelt down to talk to Gohan, whom he'd settled down on the beach so he could go play with Turtle. Everyone thinks all Goku cares about is fighting, and yeah, that is a passion of his, but he loves being a dad so much. I wiggled my jaw back and forth in frustration. And that's going to be taken from him. By threats, by the need to protect his family, and then the belief that he is the cause of all this. Damn it all. Hey, Goku suddenly called out, breaking me out of my thoughts. Who is that? You get a new student, Master Roshi. Him, the old man said, glancing at me before snickering. Come now, Goku. I might be the best teacher in the world, along with being strong, and handsome, and a machine. Certainly not humble, I commented. Isco chimed in, he is also a skilled liar. I have seen his dating profile. But even I can't do much with someone like him. He waved at me. That would be like trying to make Bulma a fighter. Hey, be nice to Chaos, Bulma declared. There is more to what do you mean make Bulma a fighter? She grabbed Roshi's ear and began to twist it hard, causing the old man to screech in pain while he flailed his arms about wildly. It's okay, Bulma, I quickly assured her, not wanting to see what happened if she twisted his lobe just a bit more. Goku though looked at me carefully. I don't know, Master Roshi. I'm sure if, Chaos, I repeated. Chaos put in the time, he could become a decent fighter. I bet he could do all sorts of cool things if given the chance. Thanks, I said with a slight smile. Though I know my strengths are in other areas, and I can win other ways. Oh yeah, Krillin challenged, but in a friendly way. It clear he wasn't picking on me but was curious and a bit charged up. And how would you defeat me or Goku or Roshi? Based on what Bulma told me. I asked. Poison. What? Goku said, eyes going wide. Roshi had stopped fighting with Bulma and Krillin was looking a bit green around the gills at that. Yeah, I said with a shrug. Slip a few drops into a drink and you'd be done. Wouldn't even need to make it kill you guys. I smirked. Can't fight if you are crapping out your intestines. Krillin clearly was thinking about that, now turning purple along with green, while Goku began to laugh, rubbing the back of his head. Hey, I guess that would work pretty well. Though I do have an iron stomach. Might not work on me. Are you laughing about him trying to poison you? Krillin exclaimed. He said he could, not that he would. He looked to me. You aren't, are you? It would upset your kid, so no, I said with a chuckle before crouching down when Gohan realized I was talking about him. Hey bud, I said gently, trying to be as calm and peaceful looking as possible. Even then though, Gohan let out a tiny whimper and ran to hide behind his father's leg. Skittish little thing, Roshi stated. Nothing at all like you, Goku. Ah, give him time. Goku declared, picking Gohan up and giving him a cuddle. He'll warm up to you guys. Maybe not the food poisoner, Krillin said darkly, giving me a side eye. Should I be annoyed that you didn't suggest using me? Isco stated. It would be rather easy for me to eliminate the pain receptacles. Are you calling them pain receptacles or suggesting that's what you'd remove from them? Yes. Hey, is that the 4-star Dragon Ball? Bulma asked, looking at the orange orb that topped Gohan's hat. Goku grinned at that, Gohan reaching up to adjust his hat. Yeah, I know I named Gohan after him, but I like to remember Grandpa, however I can, and seeing the Dragon Ball always does that. Bulma smiled fondly. I remember how we spent so much time hunting these things down. So odd we haven't needed to in 5 years. Well, I suppose that we don't need to make a WI. Goku was cut off when Bulma covered his mouth with her hand, looking at me and letting out a weak and rather fake laugh. Weekend of it. Make a weekend of it. Right, Goku? Huh, Goku said, words muffled, before he remembered that I wasn't supposed to know about the Dragon Balls. Bulma probably figured it would be better for them to remain a secret, something I didn't blame her for in the slightest. It was dangerous enough that some people knew about them, the more that did the greater the threat. Wonder how long it will take before they reveal them to me. I wondered. If I'm around them enough because of this documentary, I suppose. Goku suddenly froze, looking towards the ocean, and I knew at once what was happening. Roshi, get Gohan inside, I snapped. What are ya on about? Roshi said. He suddenly snapped his head in the same direction that Goku was looking, and I knew he'd sensed Raditz approach as well. Right. Come on, kiddo, let's get tucked inside. He grabbed Gohan from his father, the little boy letting out whimpering cries and reaching for his dad, but Roshi kept a tight hold on him and raced back into Kame house. Goku, what is going on? Bulma asked. Something is coming. I think it might be Piccolo. Piccolo. Krillin cried out, suddenly very nervous. Are you sure? Yeah, Goku said, and by that point a flying body could be seen rushing towards us. Bulma, Chaos, stay back, okay? Krillin and I will handle this. Don't have to tell me twice. Bulma declared, hurrying to hide in Kame house. However, before I could make a move, Raditz landed, looking at us with an air of condescending arrogance. Whoa, unless Piccolo decided to get a makeover. HMMMPF, Raditz said in annoyance, looking us all over, and I thought some of the shitholes of Bintu were bad, but this planet might be the worst. He walked over to one of the bushes, examining it for a moment before letting out another huff. Seriously, Kakarot, how have you not managed to bring this planet to heal? The citizens are utterly pathetic. They wouldn't even make decent target practice. Goku blinked at that. Are you talking to me? He pointed to himself, shoulders slightly slouched and eyes wide. Raditz spun around and glared at the orange GI-wearing man. Am I? Of course I'm talking to you. Who else would I be addressing? These earthlings. The robot. He gestured at Isco, as if I could be bothered to deal with such powerless filth. What is the matter with you, anyway? Well, it's just, you keep calling me Kakarot. My name's Goku. Goku. Raditz rolled the name along his tongue. Goku. He smirked. That's a pathetic name, not suited for a Saiyan, even one as weak as you, brother. Why would you allow yourself to be called that? Well, that's what my grandpa named me. He never told me I had another name. You only have one name. Kakarot. The name given to you by your people. You mean the Saiyans? Goku asked. When Raditz nodded, he added, what's a Saiyan? You don't know what a Saiyan is? Raditz roared. That's what you focus on. Bulma cried out. He just said he's your brother. So what? Goku said, looking back at her in confusion. Goku, I said slowly, do you know what a brother is? It might have seemed like a dumb thing to ask, but he had spent much of his life living alone in the woods. I had vague memories of Goku having no idea what a woman was and thinking marriage was a food. It was a legit concern. Sure, Goku exclaimed, though I wasn't quite sure if he was telling the truth or not. I just don't see what the big deal is. I mean, okay, maybe we had the same mom and dad. He suddenly smiled, scratching his head. I have a mom and dad. I never thought about. Of course you have a mom and dad. Bulma roared. Everyone has a mom and dad. Not Piccolo, I chimed in. See, Chaos gets it. Goku said with a laugh. A mom and dad. I mean, I had Grandpa Gohan and that was enough for me, so I never really thought about it. I wouldn't mind meeting them if they are still around, though if they are anything like this guy I'm not sure if I'd want to. He gave a small shrug. But being my brother, I mean it's good to know about but, well, Krillin is more of my brother than some random stranger. So why would him saying he's my brother change anything? Wait, really? Krillin said in surprise, the tension leaving his body. You think of Mai as your brother? Well, yeah, Goku perked up even more, as if saying those words caused them to solidify into something concrete and real. Yeah, I like that. You're my brother, Krillin. He looked into Kame House, tilting his head and tapping his chin. And Bulma really should be my sister, now that I think about it. No offense Krillin, but I've known her longer. She's one of my oldest friends, so it makes sense she be my sister. Oh, Goku, Bulma said, waving her hands in front of her face, blinking rapidly. Huh, Goku said, now really thinking things over. I guess that makes Master Roshi like my sunglasses wearing uncle. And as for Tien and Yamcha and Xiaosu and Yaj, Raditz suddenly grabbed him by the arm and spun him around before moving to punch him in the stomach. Goku though managed to just twist away from the blow, only for Raditz to move to strike him in the face. Once more Goku dodged the attack and moved to strike his brother, but Raditz easily caught his fist and smirked, twisting Goku's wrist before he kicked him hard, sending him flying back. Goku popped up quickly though and fell into a defensive stance, all his earlier befuddlement gone in the face of that attack. Krillin mimicked him while Isko zipped over to me, deciding to use me as a shield. Do not ignore me, Kakarot. Raditz demanded. You have a lot to answer for. This planet should have been left without a speck of life on it, and instead I find you standing around chatting away with these low-level cretins. Calling them family over me. You should be helping me slaughter them all, not chatting away about how they are your family. I am your family and you have a duty to the Saiyan race. Goku merely narrowed his eyes at that. I don't know who you are and why you think you can just show up and begin screaming at me, but I'm not going to put up with it. You truly have no idea, do you? The other Saiyan said before letting out a laugh. You don't, do you? There is not even a single inkling in that head of yours who you are, what you are. Raditz cackled at that. Perhaps you can be forgiven for your failure, little brother, as well as your attitude, so long as you have a decent enough excuse for the loss of your memories. He jabbed a finger at Goku. You are a member of the Saiyan race, the greatest warriors in all the universe. With the destruction of our home, the planet Vegeta, only 4 of us remain, but even then we remain some of the most feared beings in all the galaxy. I came here to seek out your help, for there is a planet that needs to be wiped clean of all life that is proving bothersome. Yet you can't even get this world cleared out of the filth that calls it home. He frowned. Instead you actually live among them. Where is your pride, Kakarot? I have plenty of pride, Goku told him, eyes narrowed in determination. It's that pride that keeps me from just mindlessly destroying everything just because I could. Anyone can destroy, it takes a powerful person to understand their power and not let it control them. And I don't like you talking that way about my friends, no. Talking about my family that way. So unless you want to apologize, then I'm going to make you. That made the Saiyan warrior laugh. Finally. I was afraid being sent to this pathetic planet had made you utterly weak. He tensed, readying for battle. I will make sure you understand your place. You will fall in line and then you will help me ensure that every pathetic being on this planet knows their doom came to them at the hands of Raditz. So prepare yourself, because that little scuffle we just had wasn't even a warm-up for me. Goku. I called out before the two could launch themselves at each other. Maybe you want to move this someplace you can stretch your legs. I looked back towards Kame House, thankful that Roshi had managed to keep Gohan inside and away from Raditz's line of sight. You know, allow you to go all out. The island isn't really suited for a true brawl. Right, Goku said, rising in the air. Come on Raditz, you want a fight? I know where we're to go to have one. There is a grass plain 60 miles from here, we can fight there. Lead on, brother, lead on. I'll enjoy putting you in your place. He looked right back at me. Enjoy this brief reprieve, human. Because when we return, my brother will get to watch as I destroy you all. With that, Goku and Raditz rocketed off, leaving us behind. Krillin, can you find your friends and get them to where Goku is going? I asked. I have a feeling he's going to need all the help he can get. Yeah, I think you're right. Krillin declared. I know Goku is strong, but what I sensed from that Raditz guy, he shook his head and I completely got it. Even being a human with a power level most likely in the single digits, I had felt Raditz's strength. It was the same ancient instinct that had allowed my primal ancestors know there was a predator nearby. Hopefully Tien and Yamcha are close enough by. He took off without saying another word, leaving the rest of us behind without a second glance. Not that I blamed him, all things considered. Do you think that strange man could be Goku's brother? Bulma asked as Roshi came out, holding a sniffling Gohan's hand. The boy rubbed his nose with his sleeve, worrying his lip with his teeth. I mean, he can't, right? It's possible, Roshi stated. Goku's grandpa stated that he found Goku in a strange pod-like device. He wasn't sure what it was, but perhaps it came from wherever that strange warrior came from. I assumed that it was just an egg and that Goku was from a weird race of monkey people, but perhaps he truly is an alien. Does it matter, though? I asked. Of course it doesn't. Bulma yelled at me and I quickly threw up my hands to defend myself. Sorry, she said, instantly deflated. I get it, just asking questions. That's what I paid you to do. It's just. You're worried, I get that. Daddy. Gohan whimpered. Where did my daddy go? He looked about rapidly, tears gathering in his eyes. Oh, sweetie. Bulma knelt down so she could look Gohan in the eye. He had to go take care of that bad man, but he'll be back soon, I promise. Until then you are safe with us. He said, you were his sister. Gohan frowned, mulling over that new word. What does that mean? It means she's your aunt, I chimed in. They look after kids if their mom and dad are busy. Aunt, the little boy said, staring at Bulma. Yeah, she declared, perking up. I'm Aunt Bulma, and me and Uncle Roshi are going to make sure you are safe until your dad returns. As Bulma comforted Gohan, I walked over to Roshi, Isko following after. Goku is in trouble, isn't he? I whispered, low enough that Gohan couldn't hear. I can't do a tenth of what Bulma says you guys can do, but Raditz. Yes, Roshi said softly, all his earlier guffing and joking gone in the face of this new threat. Raditz, he is beyond anything Goku has ever faced. While it is impressive that Goku has remained as strong as he has, after getting married and having a son, he hasn't grown in strength like he did back when he was fully dedicated to his training. He has leveled off, and I am worried that will make him unable to overcome Raditz. And what he is after, the old man gripped his walking stick. With Piccolo he wanted to take over the world. Raditz just wants to destroy it. I suppose, Isko stated, that it is too much to hope that much like his hair Raditz was embellishing his abilities to compensate for something. Hey, Roshi laughed, but it was weak and forced. We can only hope. I frowned as I looked at the ocean. The smart thing would be to stay here and hope that things work out like they did last time. Maybe even better, if Krillin is with Goku. They could meet up with Piccolo and convince him to fight with them. I glanced over at Gohan and Bulma and set my jaw. Or things could get far worse. A curse flew past my lips before I was moving towards Bulma's ship. Chaos, she called out, carrying Gohan with her. What are you doing? Helping, I said, shaking my head. Lord knows I have no idea what I'll be able to do, but I have to try. You can't fight Raditz, Roshi cried out in a panic. You'd be slaughtered. Yeah, I muttered because I'd found myself in Dragon Ball Z as a normal human. No special moves. No magic. Nothing. Just my brains. But, I have some theories, I said as I began to puzzle over what I could do to help. Ideas began to race through my head, growing like acorns, taking roots so that, hopefully, when I did end up at the battlefield, I would have a mighty oak in their place. Well, don't take the car. Bulma protested. I just got it waxed. Here. She ran over to the side and pulled out a capsule box, selecting one and clicking it to allow for a flying motorcycle-like vehicle to appear, complete with a helmet. Thanks, I said as I grabbed the helmet and slipped it on. I looked over at Bulma and another thought struck me. Can I have some capsules? Doesn't matter what you give me. Yeah, that might be a good idea. Do you know anything about healing? I do. It was sports medicine, but it was better than anything. Then take this, she said, handing me one small traveling case of capsules. And these two. She passed me another 2 cases which I secured to the bike. One has food, which Goku is going to want after his fight. The other, well, I'm not for sure. Hopefully I won't need them, but if I do, well, anything is better than nothing, I said as I hopped onto the bike. Isco, staying here or coming? I am out of a job if you die, sir, Isco said, using his arms to lock himself onto the bike. Then let's go. Chaos. Bulma called out. Be careful. I gave a nod, knowing I was about to do anything but. And with that we rose in the air, Bulma and Roshi waving goodbye before I rocketed off towards the dumbest thing I'd ever done. 1 month earlier. I don't see why we can't just go in now and deal with Frieza now. Prince Vegeta let out a scoff at that as he munched on his food, not even bothering to look up. The small grassland moon they had found was full of fat juicy animals, and the Saiyans had made quick work of taking down as much as possible so they could have a feast. It had been a busy month and they deserved that much. And we'd be killed before we even got near him, he said as he grabbed a container of water and took a large swing before returning to the sucking the meat out of a shelled creature's tail. Come on, Nappa declared, a half-eaten green fruit the size of his fist held tight in his fingers. Frieza never fights, you said it yourself. We go in and we'd probably be able to break his arms before he could say a word. He grinned at that, clearly thinking about how wonderful it would be to hear the sounds of the Emperor screaming in agony. Raditz had to admit it was something he'd love to hear, would probably record it with his scouter and enjoy it while soaking in one of the water tubs. Use your head, the prince snapped as he grabbed a large well-roasted leg of, well, Raditz had no idea what the creature was called, but he did know it tasted really good. Perhaps they should hold off wiping out their entire species, would be nice to have a regular supply. Frieza is never alone. He has Zarbon and Dodoria always at his side. Do you think that they are going to meekly stand there while you attack Frieza? They are utterly loyal to him. To betray him would be like hacking off their own foot. We can take him, Nappa declared. Raditz rolled his eyes at that. No, we can't. He snagged a wing of some creature that had been scaly yet also had fur as well and sank his teeth into it. The bastard had been hard to clean and cook, but it was worth it, as it had a good spice to it even without them doing much other than tossing it into the fire. And then there is the Ginyu Force. Do you want to face those 5? Frieza wouldn't have the Ginyu Force around. Nappa declared. He only brings them to a planet if there are super strong fighters. There is no one around like that. Other than us, Prince Vegeta said slowly, eyeing Nappa carefully. I didn't mean to say, the older Saiyan stammered, realizing he'd stepped in it. No, you didn't. Just like you haven't been thinking things out clearly. We only get one's chance at this, and if we have any hope of taking out Frieza and gaining control of the Empire, we must think things through carefully. He paused. Because the moment we kill Frieza, King Cold and Prince Cooler will be alerted. If we do not have the Frieza force on our side, then they will wipe us out. But please, Nappa, if you wish to die so quickly, you are more than welcome to go retrieve your scouter and let Frieza know what you are plotting. Nappa turned and stared fearfully to the north. About 4 miles away they had left their scouters attached to some slow-moving, rather lazy-looking furry creatures. Despite then having long claws, they'd only yawned and scratched themselves as the three had attached their scouters to the creatures before flying off. While it was possible to turn off the communication feature on a scouter, there was a chance that someone at one of the Frieza stations could flip it back on. They did that at times, just to make sure that no one was plotting or scheming. It wasn't common, but occasionally someone would decide to quietly take one of the planets they were supposed to cleanse as their own, and thus the random check-ins would help catch them doing just that. Raditz himself had been sent twice to deal with such soldiers who thought to make themselves kings. And then there were the survivors of planets that they wiped clean who tried to infiltrate the Frieza force and take it apart from the inside. It was always amusing to see just who of the new recruits would die first. Kui still owed Raditz after their last bet. So the scouters were attached to the sleepy animals and would record that the Saiyans were sleeping if anyone activated any of their tracking features. As much as Raditz hated how everyone saw them as little more than savage brutes, he was willing to use their own beliefs against them in this case. When Nappa made no move to leave, Prince Vegeta shook his head. I thought not. He looked at the two of them with narrowed eyes. We will need to choose our moment, and keep this quiet. We cannot rely on anyone else to do this, only the three of us. So I suggest you keep your mouths shut. Of course, Raditz said, a touch annoyed at the prince was speaking to him like he was any other soldier in Frieza's army. We have fought side by side since he was 5 years old, and yet that means nothing to you. My father proved to be the most successful squadron leader in his generation. King Vegeta honored him by placing me as a part of your squad. I was meant to be your advisor and ally, and yet you treat me like I am little more than hired muscle. He didn't say a word of that, however. If he had, Prince Vegeta wouldn't have bothered attacking him, choosing instead to send Nappa after him. The loyal lapdog, bound by his promise to a dead man that could never say it completed, never attempting to rise up in the ranks by proving his strength. And they had all seen how having him be the prince's shadow had affected Vegeta, preventing him from truly understanding how the world worked. He believes that he is destined to lead purely because of his birth. King Vegeta could bring to submission any who dared try to stand against him, and they would show their honor by falling into line. He knew that they would continue to plot his downfall and used that to motivate himself to grow stronger. That is how it is supposed to work. Offer a hand to your fallen foe, but know they would always be a threat, so you needed to continue to strive to grow stronger. But if Prince Vegeta ever suspected that I was attempting to take command from him, he would see me killed in an instant. But Vegeta, Nappa said, and Raditz wondered if the man noticed how much the prince hated how familiar the bald-headed Saiyan was with him. Would it not be better to try and have others fight with us? He grinned. You have something stuck in your teeth. Nappa blinked, his boast short-circuited by that, and Raditz chuckled softly as the large man hurried to remove the bit of stringy meat that had gotten caught between his two front teeth. When that was done, he began again, trying to build up his bluster but failing. I'm sure there are plenty who are tired of groveling to Frieza. And if not, I'm sure I can convince them to join up. He pounded his fist into his open palm. Vegeta, though, merely shot him a cold stare. Tell me, Nappa, what would you do if you learned that there was someone plotting against me? Well, I'd tell you. He said it so matter of fact that even though it was the truth, it came off as being so utterly stupid it hurt Raditz's brain. That caused the Saiyan to snap. And you think that those members of the Frieza force you went to in hopes of bringing them to our side wouldn't run and tell Frieza? Watch your tone, Nappa snarled, leaping to his feet and jabbing a finger at Raditz. You are lucky you are allowed to sit with us, you weakling. Nappa. Vegeta snapped, and at once the bald Saiyan froze. Raditz is right. We can only trust the three of us. No one else. It will make things harder for our plan, but this is a matter that only we can handle. Seeing his chance, Raditz spoke up. What if there were more of us? Oh, this isn't about the rumors about your uncle we heard back at station 318. Nappa said with a laugh, sitting back down. Turles is long dead. The only reason his body wasn't brought back to King Vegeta is because I vaporized his ship. Assuming Turles existed in the first place, Prince Vegeta stated. I have always believed he was just a fabrication my father created to ensure no Saiyans thought themselves strong enough to disobey. Remember Turles and let him be a reminder of what happens to he who betrays me. Raditz didn't react in the slightest to the mockery. He knew that his mother's brother was still out there. He'd heard enough whispers of the Saiyan with gray-hued skin who led a band of space pirates that nibbled on the edges of Frieza's empire. Of the planets found stripped of their riches, rendered so inhospitable that even Frieza found little use for them at times. But Turles was not someone that he'd ever want to go after. He had been warned by his father, in the few times he'd seen the man before his death, that Turles cared only for himself, not even showing loyalty to his own squad. A Saiyan that no Saiyan should strive to be like. No, he had someone else in mind. I was referring to my brother. Your brother? Prince Vegeta asked, raising an eyebrow at that. You have a brother? Kakarot? Yes, Raditz confirmed. My father sent him to a planet to serve as an eradicator when he was just a baby, only a few hours before planet Vegeta was destroyed. And you just bring this up now? Nappa snapped. There was another Saiyan out there and you failed to mention it. I thought him dead, destroyed with the planet, Raditz answered. But when we began discussing our issues with Frieza, I decided to look the last day of planet Vegeta in hopes someone might have escaped as we did through luck and discovered that his pod had managed to launch before the planet's destruction. He landed on a planet known as Earth according to the records we have and is there now. And if he isn't, Nappa pressed, then he would have been useless to us, Raditz reasoned. Another Saiyan, Prince Vegeta stated, eyes half shut. He smirked slightly and nodded. Yes, that might work out well. Even if he proves weak, he would be something that Frieza wasn't prepared for. Prince Vegeta rose up. Behind him and on either side were piles of bones, and the only thing that would have made the Prince of Saiyans happier would have been if they were the bones of his enemies. You can retrieve him without anyone noticing. I've been told to take out a band of planets, for my pod that will take 8 months to reach, and I have been given another 6 to do so, as they are said to be technologically advanced. He leaned forward and grinned. However, I learned just a few days ago that their sun went supernova, they were wiped out, rendered little more than charred rocks. I managed to kill the one that found that out and made it look like a desertion. I now have just over a year, more than enough time to go, retrieve my brother, and make sure he is up to snuff. Prince Vegeta nodded at that. Nappa and I have been assigned 12 planets each. We will work together and get it done in half the time and then begin training. We will meet back here in 14 months' time, and see if Kakarot is worth all this trouble. It will be on your head if he isn't. Nappa warned. Raditz merely bowed in respect and Prince Vegeta flew off to retrieve his scouter, Nappa following right behind him. Bastards, Raditz thought to himself, realizing they meant for him to clean up on his own. It had been his gear that they'd used to cook the meal, and instead of helping him scrub the knives and such, they'd left him to deal with it, like he was little more than a non-combatant. Raditz narrowed his eyes, hands clenched into fists. I was supposed to be your ally, I was willing to be your advisor, and instead you treat me like a nothing. Well, my prince, you are in for a surprise. I'm going to find Kakarot, and once I prove myself his better, he will help me grow strong enough to defeat you and Nappa. You will submit to me or you will surrender all your honor at the cost of your life. He paused. And then, Frieza, I will take all you care about. It hadn't just been Kakarot's location that he had learned of a few weeks back. No, the Frieza Force soldier he'd forced to hack into the records had also discovered footage of the day planet Vegeta had been destroyed. It had been no meteor, it had been Frieza himself who had done the deed. Why he did Raditz did not know, only that their emperor had decided to destroy the planet and the entire Saiyan race save for the 4 that remained. But the Saiyans hadn't died meekly, some had fought back. Resisted. And at the front had been Raditz's father. You will die, Frieza, Raditz thought, the image of his father's final defiant stand burned into his brain. Vegeta and Nappa might not care about their families, but you killed my mother and father. Took my home. And with my brother, you will pay. I will claim your empire and the universe will grovel at the feet of Emperor Raditz. MC, MC. Present day. I believe we have found them, sir, Isco stated as we spotted 3 figures battling each other in the distance. They were on a grassy plain, but with the way they kept getting hit I doubted the grass was cushioning Goku and Piccolo's falls all that much. Do you have a plan? A theory or two, mostly, I admitted. Depends on how Raditz reacts to me showing up. I saw a glow coming from one of the figures and quickly sent the cycle into a dive just before an orb of energy came racing towards me. While I'd never driven a motorcycle before and certainly not a flying one, I had rode 4-wheelers growing up, racing them through the bumpy fields and along tractor lanes. That knowledge and experience came in handy and I had quickly been able to push the bike to the limit. Thankfully my quick handling of the bike got us out of the way of the attack with plenty of time to spare, but it didn't make me feel good that I was already being fired on and hadn't even stepped onto the ground. Parking the bike I saw Goku and Piccolo, both of whom had already removed their weighted clothing, looking a bit mussed up while Raditz wasn't looking that flustered at all. All 3 turned to stare at me, Raditz smirking while Piccolo frowned. Goku. Who is that? Oh, that's Chaos, Goku chirped. Not sure why he's here though. Raditz jabbed a finger at me, a dark smirk on his lips. I warned you, Kakarot, that I would only allow you one partner in this battle. And I only allowed that because the Namekian here seems rather interesting. Yet here is a little human come bursting in here. You broke your word, so it's up to me to show you why you shouldn't lie to your family. Raditz's hand began to glow and I did what I could. Talked right out of my ass. Haven't you ever heard of the Press Corp? I called out quickly even as I tensed, ready to run. Documentation of victory. Raditz didn't lower his hand, but he didn't make the glow any more intense. Documentation of victory. Of course. We do it on Earth all the time. Any time there is a fight of importance we record it so everyone else on Earth can see it. Would be hard for everyone to watch, after all, but this way you have freedom to do whatever you need to in a fight but still get everyone watching. I glanced at Isco. We record the fight and make sure everyone knows who the strongest fighter is. Neutral bystander. Damn it Goku, why did you ask a cameraman to come here? Piccolo demanded, unknowingly backing up my claim. If he can't fight he's useless. Raditz though held up his other hand while the one that had been gathering energy dismissed the key instantly. Wait, you mean to say that everyone on this mudhole will know that I am the mightiest fighter? Of course, I said quickly. Goku and Piccolo are the 2 strongest fighters on Earth. Everyone knows that thanks to the last tournament we had. If I record you beating them then everyone knows that you are the strongest. That made the Saiyan smile for more genuinely. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. I'm all for a good fight but it gets so tiring dealing with weaklings that can't take a punch. Keeps me from the real fun. This would cow all you worthless humans into submission, wouldn't it? Let you know that you have no chance in defeating me if they saw me defeat the best they can muster. Which isn't much when the best aren't even from this planet. He let out a boisterous laugh. Finally, a human with a bit of brains. I might keep you around, worm, if you prove your worth. I always wanted a pet. I nodded. I'll just stay out of the way. Won't even realize I'm here. Very well. Raditz turned back towards Goku and Piccolo, only to suddenly shoot a ki blast right in front of me, causing me to jump. But, if any more of your friends show up, Kakarot, I won't miss. This one is your last freebie. Beep, boop, do not mention what I am, beep, boop, Isco said. Laying it on thick there, buddy. I dove for cover as the three warriors began to battle each other, throwing kicks and punches at one another as they attempted to find an opening, letting the ki blasts fly freely. Despite the fact that up until 30 minutes ago the two had been enemies, it was rather interesting to see how in tune with one another Piccolo and Goku were. They didn't stumble over each other or need to watch out for when one was throwing a punch lest the other get hit. No, they moved perfectly in sync, knowing when to push forward and when to fall back to allow the other a chance to get in a blow. Despite what Piccolo might have desired others to believe, he wasn't a selfish fighter who wanted to claim the kill on his own. Rather, he gave just as much as he took. The hero he is destined to be is there, waiting to be born, I thought to myself as Piccolo fell back, allowing Goku and Raditz to trade blows. Or, to be more accurate, allow Goku to swing and kick at Raditz, who ducked and bobbed and weaved. At times he didn't even bother to raise his hands, instead keeping them folded over his chest or pressed against his sides, merely twisting his torso and ducking to avoid the strikes. And then suddenly Goku went low, moving for a leg sweep that Raditz easily dodged, only for Piccolo to fire off a barrage of ki blasts that struck him right on the chest, pounding into him like a flurry of haymakers and sending the Saiyan flying back. Piccolo let out a battle cry and began to thrust his hands out again and again, sending more ki blasts that rained down on Raditz, causing him to disappear in a cloud of dirt and grass. Yeah, Goku cheered, thrusting his fist into the air. Great job, Piccolo. That's, oh. Raditz got back up, brushing off his armor. Well, 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 the green man has some interesting tricks. Quite the impressive display. I think you managed to scratch my armor. He looked it over, rubbing his fist against it before sighing. No, just a scuff. Well then, let me show you how a true warrior does it. Raditz rapidly thrust out his own hands, over and over and over again, and 30 different ki blasts launched from his palms, flying all over and forcing the Namekian warrior to try and twist and dodge. But there were simply too many and he took a good number of hits, unlike Raditz, though he went crashing down beside me, gasping in pain. Ah, I think I broke him already, little brother. And you said he was your rival. That doesn't say much about you and your power. Goku, to his credit, instantly leapt back into battle. Are you okay, Piccolo? I asked, kneeling down beside him. I'm fine, he said curtly, getting up. Just need a moment to catch my breath. Right, I said before dropping my voice to a whisper. Goku's too honorable to do what needs to be done. What's that, Goku? Him and his friends, they are the best of humanity. But you know us humans, we clawed and scratched and did everything we could to rise to the top. And we always do. We will kill each other in order to have just a little bit more of something we don't really need. I looked back at the fight. So, willing to fight dirty, like human. He glanced at me and a smirk slowly formed on his lips. What do you have in mind? Raditz rarely leaves the ground. He can fly, but he likes to use the earth to propel himself forward. Of course, it uses less energy to do that and you can stop quicker. What if the ground wasn't safe anymore to do that? I asked, holding up my hand to reveal a few capsules. That might work. It would be best if you toss them, I can distract him. I'll make sure to stay off the ground as much as I can. I nodded before holding up a few more capsules. Also, if you were able to shove one down his throat. That caused the Namekian to twist back to stare at me. What? Where I'm from there's a combat move known as Ant-Man in Thanos. I think it might work here. That is horrifying, Piccolo said before flashing me a fang-filled smile. I like it. And just what are you two plotting? Raditz asked, catching Goku in the stomach with a powerful punch that had the young hero gasping for air. He lifted Goku clear off his feet, letting him dangle off his fist for a moment before he casually let him drop, kicking him away for good measure before he could touch the ground. Getting his statement on the fight, "Sir," I called out. "Do you mind me calling you sir? Or is there another title I should use for you?" "Master would work fine." I grimaced. "Meet wanna think of a different one. In a lot of cultures that has a very UAL undertone." That caused Raditz to pause, blinking as he considered my words. "Seriously?" "Apparently," Piccolo admitted. "Lord is a good one," I pointed out. Raditz smiled at that. "Lord Raditz. I like it. Yes, you may refer to me as such." He suddenly was right on Piccolo, swinging at him only for the Namekian to duck while I once more found myself scrambling for cover. Isco, the lucky bastard, had taken to the skies to avoid any chances he might get hit after the last flurry of ki blasts. I would suggest coming up with titles for this one. He grabbed Piccolo by the head, forcing his skull back, but he won't be around long to hear any of them. Piccolo opened his mouth and fired off an energy blast that had Raditz cursing and yanking his arm away. "Only because I'll be too busy celebrating your defeat," he declared as he moved in to once more take on Raditz, the Saiyan warrior returning to the defensive. "I hope you aren't expecting me to begin calling you Lord, sir," Isco said, floating down to me. "I'm not conceited like that," I commented, waiting for the right moment so I could fling out a capsule. Piccolo suddenly rose up in an attempt to try and slam his knee into Raditz's face only for his foe to easily duck away before aiming to strike Piccolo in the chest with an open palm. For his part, Piccolo dodged that attack before kicking at Raditz, catching him on the chin and snapping his head back. Now, the capsule flew out of my hand as Raditz stumbled back. The long-haired Saiyan wiped his mouth with the back of his hand as he braced himself to launch another assault. "Oh, you are." His foot came down and suddenly he was flung up as a large four-post pink princess bed formed under him. "God damn it, Bulma," I muttered. "Well, that happened," Isco commented as Piccolo, rather than laugh at what had happened, went on the offensive. He fired off several ki blasts at Raditz, who spun around and recovered, too angry about the suddenly appearance of the bed to actually question it. He instead snarled and launched himself at Piccolo only for Goku to rocket right at him, having recovered finally and join in on the fight. Goku, much to my surprise, grabbing one of the posts of the bed and slammed it into Raditz's stomach before trying to tie him up with the sheets. "You think those little tricks will stop me, brother?" Raditz roared as he flexed, bursting out of the linens. "I have encountered every tactic there is." "Okay then," Goku said, spinning in the air before launching himself upwards again. Piccolo fired a few more ki blasts and I took aim, flinging another capsule, this one in a high arc. Sure enough, after a few seconds it poofed open to reveal an entire vanity with mirror, which crashed down beside Raditz, startling him as makeup and powders bounced around him. "How about this? Ma. We should move," I whispered, Isco already buzzing off as I leapt onto the cycle and turned it on. Ma. Raditz roared and thrust out his own hands to prepare for the hit, taking several blasts from Piccolo along his back for his trouble. But still he refused to move, focused entirely on his brother. Goku roared, firing off the Kamehameha. The energy blast thundered down at Raditz, and when I glanced back I had the distinct impression of him staring in shock before the blast hit him full on, the warrior screaming with a fury as he fought against it. I had to turn away thanks to the light that was coming off of the blast, bringing the cycle to a stop about a football field's length away from where I had been. "Did that work?" Isco asked. Raditz roared. "Nope," I muttered as the warrior blasted himself into the air, pounding Goku repeatedly in the face, battering the orange gi-wearing hero as he had no chance to raise his hands to defend himself. Again and again he pounded into Goku, grabbing him by the hair and forcing his head up so he could have better access to his face. "Impressive, little brother," Raditz bellowed, "but not nearly enough to defeat me." Piccolo was suddenly on him, slamming his hand against Raditz's open mouth. The Saiyan blinked as he realized that something had been shoved between his teeth. Before an entire banana cream pie appeared between his lips. I grabbed a food one, I muttered even as Raditz, startled, dropped Goku, who slammed into the ground in a heap. Raditz spat and hissed as he yanked the tin out of his mouth before he delivered a double-fisted haymaker down on Piccolo's back, sending him crashing down next to Goku. And so it ends, Raditz whispered, panting and wiping more cream away with his forearm. He dropped down, pressing his foot on Goku's back, making the younger Saiyan groan. Surrender, brother. Hey! Krillin shouted as he flew in. Yamcha, Tien, and Xiaosu were right behind him, all landing with their fists clenched and bodies tensed as they prepared for battle. You stay away from them. Oh look, brother, Raditz said with a pleased growl, more of your little friends are here to see you submit. He pressed his foot down more and Goku let out a cry. Do you see, at your very best you had no hope of defeating me. Now surrender. Goku said nothing and Raditz snarled and kicked him in the ribs hard. You are beaten. Know your place, brother. Acknowledge me as your better. Your very best, I thought as my brain screamed out a way for us to get out of this mess. It might lead to my death, but at this point with Goku and Piccolo down and the rest of the Z fighters nowhere ready to take on Raditz. It was our only chance. I stepped forward. You're wrong, Lord Raditz. He turned towards me and I forced myself to meet his gaze. Oh, and what mistake have I made? Kakarot is broken, defeated, unable to even rise. The Namekian proved to be a disappointment. And these other humans are barely worth my time. I could destroy them with a single blast. So tell me, servant, what mistake have I made? He narrowed his eyes, the threat clear if I didn't answer in a way that pleased him. All or nothing, I thought. Goku wasn't at his very best. He hasn't fully been training for 5 years. He worked out, yes, but he isn't in fighting shape. So what? Raditz asked with an annoyed huff. So you can't claim you beat him at his best. You didn't break Son Goku at his prime. Raditz, consider that. You think he can do more. I do, I answered. And I think you want to see that. You need to know that you can beat him when he's prepared himself for you. Because if you don't, him dying at your hands, it means nothing. It proves nothing. And you'll spend the rest of your life wondering if you could have beaten him if he had been ready. The whispers will always follow you. Goku let out a moan as Raditz lifted his foot from him. And how long do you think he would need, human, to reach his prime? 2 years, I offered. With that we could use the Dragon Balls multiple times, even have a chance to maybe go to Namek and see if Guru could unlock everyone's potential. Get everyone up to a power level where they could survive the hyperbolic time chamber. Raditz scoffed. I don't have 2 years. You'd be able to train too, I suggested. That way no one could claim either side had an advantage. You prepare, we prepare. Truly determine who is the best, so there is never any doubt. Krillin, who is this guy? Tien whispered. Bulma's friend, but let him speak, Krillin hissed. Anything that keeps that guy away from Goku. What is Piccolo doing here though? Yamcha asked. We can ask later if we survive, Xiaosu said softly. Raditz shook his head again, though he had considered my suggestion for far longer. It was his Saiyan blood, after all. He couldn't help but hunger for the fight. Like I said, I don't have 2 years. 6 months. That won't work. The gang was barely up to snuff against the Cybermen with a year. Out loud I offered, 18 months. 9 months. Time to go for the kill. Out loud I offered, 13 months Earth months. 1 month for them to recover from this, as well as allow you to find where you want to train, as I imagine you don't want to stick around this shithole we call home. 1 year to train. Deal, Raditz said after a moment, kneeling down and grabbing Goku by the hair, lifting his head up. Did you hear that, brother? In 13 months' time we will all return to this spot, and if you give me as pathetic of a showing as this, then I will have you submit to my authority. You fall into line and do as I say. As is my right. He slammed Goku's face down into the dirt before rising up into the air. I let out a sigh of relief as he took off. Oh, Raditz called up, causing my head to snap up in time to see his hand out, palm glowing. I nearly forgot. I warned you what would happen to your next friend. Who showed up uninvited. Saturday crush. No. Goku cried out, struggling to get up. But it was too late as the energy ball raced right at Krillin, the first of the Z fighters to land. Krillin. Goku's best friend could only stare in horror before shielding himself with his arms, but as he did so I knew he didn't stand a chance. The blast was simply too strong and Krillin went flying, shoved to the ground. Yamcha screamed as the blast struck him in the side, making him shake in place for a moment before he was sent flying, his body falling a few meters away, skidding through the grass. When he landed, he remained utterly still. You bastard! Tien roared, charging up his own attack, but by that point Raditz was long gone, having not even bothered to watch what his attack would do. The ultimate disrespect. Yamcha, I whispered before I rushed forward, moving to join the others as they gathered around the scarred face bandit. Tien rolled him over onto his back and I winced as I stared at the blood smeared across his face and his glassy eyes. There was a wet sound as he took in a breath, gurgled and trembling. Krillin sniffed, kneeling down next to his friend. Yamcha, why did you do that? You were already brought back once, Yamcha said, managing a weak smile. Besides, everyone knows, it's better, if you're around, Goku needs you. No, do say that, Krillin whispered. Yamcha, Yamcha. Yamcha didn't say a word, staring sightlessly into the sky. Yamcha, I got out, dropping my head. What do we do now? Krillin asked. Tien sighed. We get everyone back to Kame House, and then figure out our next move. I'll help Piccolo, I offered, and Tien looked at me, clearly wondering who I was but realizing that at this point they needed all the help they could get. Isco. Call, I stopped, swallowing the lump in my throat. I hadn't even met Yamcha. Only knew him from the show. And the joke he had become to so many. Yet I had seen him throw himself at certain death just to save his friend, because he knew if he died, that would be it for him. That was no joke. Call Bulma, I got out. Let her know to get Gohan someplace where he can't see us. At least not at first. Yeah, Krillin said as he moved to help Goku up, Tien having the task of picking up Yamcha. Piccolo glared at me but still allowed me to help him up, his arm draped over my shoulder as I carried him towards the cycle. Little guy shouldn't have to see this. With that we moved to return to Kame House, none of us feeling like we'd won a damn thing. Despite Roshi stating that he should lie down and rest, Goku had refused, choosing to sit in the old man's chair with his son in his lap, stroking the sleeping boy's hair. His face had begun to bruise, one eye was swollen shut, and from the way he would wince from time to time it must have been agony sitting there, the little boy pressed against his cracked ribs. Yet there had been something in his eyes when Roshi had suggested he go to sleep and let them deal with the little monkey-tailed boy, a need to be there. To have his child with him. His friends as well. Except, not all of them. Not really. I was going to tell him he was my brother. Piccolo felt like a total outsider as he watched Goku and his friends stare at the body of Yamcha. He didn't belong there, watching as they grieved. There was no mirth either, no satisfaction. 5 years ago he would have enjoyed seeing them mourn their friend, but only because he had been the one to put him down. A showing of his power, that he could do more than merely kill a person, he could make them not want to live anymore. That's why it's better to be alone, he thought to himself from the corner he had chosen to linger in. You can't be hurt when you are alone. You don't feel the need to grieve when there is no one around that you care for. Can't have someone be used against you either. It's foolish. They're foolish. All of them. After today, I was going to find him, Goku continued on, eyes never shifting away from Yamcha's body as it lay on the couch across from him. The others had sat down on the floor, never considering for a second moving the corpse to the ground and taking the seat for themselves. I was going to tell him that he was more than my friend, he was my brother. My family. Bulma let out a little hiccup and pressed her face against Tien's shoulder, the Triclops patting her back gently. Since he could remember, he'd isolated himself from the world. Understood what he was. A demon. A monster. The threat that would either rule or be destroyed. There was no in-between for him. Either he would sit on a throne made from the corpses of his enemies, or he'd be buried in a grave, forgotten and unmourned. It had been ingrained in him by his father, whispered in his mind from the moment he had been created. Monsters didn't need friends. And from what he was seeing, he was lucky he didn't have them. It only meant hurting when they were gone. Yes, it was better his way. I know all of you won't like hearing this, but we really do need to begin thinking about a plan, Roshi said quietly. What do you mean? Bulma managed to get out. Kaio's only managed to buy us 13 months, Roshi said, glancing over at the man in question. The newcomer, the one that Piccolo had only met at the plain where he and Goku had fought Raditz, was maybe even more of an outsider than he was. At least Piccolo had some history with the group. From what Krillin had mentioned, Kaio's had only met them a few hours ago. And already he had witnessed one of them die. Maybe he'll realize how dangerous it is to have friends too, Piccolo thought, staring at the human from the corner of his eye. So what? Bulma hissed. We get our affairs in order before that big puffy-haired jerk comes and kills us all. We have to prepare for Raditz to return, Bulma, Goku said gently. You couldn't beat him, Goku. You and Piccolo together were no match for him. All Kaio's did was prolong our execution. And he could still kill us at any moment, if he wanted. I don't think he will, the blonde stated. He was standing off to the side, shifting with unease, unable to settle himself. Oh, what do you know? Bulma snapped, glaring at him. According to Tien and Krillin, you were calling him Lord Raditz. What? Now working for him? Is that it? Decided to betray the entire human race. That's enough. Piccolo was just as surprised as everyone else when he realized he had been the one to speak up. Kaio's here did what he could to help us. And he bought us time, which is important. Yes, Raditz was stronger than us, but now that we know he's coming back, we can prepare. Goku nodded quickly. Yeah, and I agree with Kaio's. I don't think Raditz will go back on his word. He kept mentioning his pride and his honor as a Saiyan. He wouldn't want to risk that by coming back and killing us all at random. You don't know that, Goku, Tien said, not being rude but still firm. He could return at any moment. No, he's going to honor his word, Goku repeated earnestly. And we will be getting ready for him. A fire burned in his gaze. Even injured as he was, Goku was looking forward to that next fight. While he's getting ready for us, Krillin complained, arms folded over his chest and face twisted in a scowl. Where Goku had the confidence that with enough training he could overcome his brother, Krillin had only known that the last fight had cost them a friend. He's going to be training too. We aren't going to stand a chance. Piccolo was an outsider. He didn't want to be part of this group. Didn't need to be. Half a decade ago he would have gleefully slaughtered them all. If you think like that, he said coolly, then you are throwing away Yamcha's sacrifice. Hey! Krillin shouted, leaping to his feet. Who asked you? No, Roshi chimed in, Piccolo is right. Yamcha gave his life so that you could live. Krillin, are you really going to waste it by sitting around here, moping? That caused the bald little man to wilt. No. He took a breath and Piccolo had to admit he was impressed how the fighter's spine straightened and he seemed to rally within just a few moments. The despair over what he saw as their doom disappeared, leaving only raw drive. No, he said with more determination. We are going to show that bastard just what us Earthlings are capable of. He is going to pay for killing our friend. Our brother, Goku said firmly. Besides, Piccolo stated, glancing down at Yamcha, it's not like he's going to be gone for long. The others started at that before they began to talk over each other, asking what he meant by that. The Dragon Balls, he said slowly, wondering how they could be this stupid. Maybe we should hold off talking about this, Tien suggested, glancing as Chaos and Isco. That made Piccolo scoff. We're not going to be able to hide it from him. What? You'll just claim Yamcha was sleeping? Well, now we can't, Bulma yelled. Chaos, for his part, raised an eyebrow at that. I'm not an idiot, Bulma. I upgraded his standing when he got you to pay us in advance, Isco chirped. Not helping, he muttered before adding in a louder voice, and before you freak out, I know about the Dragon Balls. You do. Everyone cried out only to instantly go silent when Goku's son let out a murmur in his sleep. You do. They repeated, much softer. It wasn't that hard. Legend about 7 mystical artifacts, a giant dragon reported in the sky, the fact that 3 of you should be dead but are walking around, he leveled a cool stare their way. You aren't as secretive as you think. Honestly, it's only because everyone else is so focused on other things that you don't have petitioners lined up at Capsule Corp asking for a chance to make a wish. Great. The poisoner knows about the Dragon Balls, Krillin complained, and Piccolo leaned back a bit, wondering what the story was behind that comment. Chaos had proven to be far more underhanded than Goku's friends, but poison. The human was growing more and more interesting. Probably thinking you can steal a wish. First off, if I tried, I'm sure each one of you could bury me in the ground with just your fists, and I'm including Bulma in that count. Second, what would I wish for? Immortality. Xiaosu suggested, but that only made Chaos laugh. What? Immortality is a horrible wish to make. He continued to snicker. Making yourself immortal means you just can't die. Right, Tien said slowly, staring at Chaos. That's why it's the ultimate wish. You can't die. Can't die, it doesn't make you eternally young. Everyone blinked at that, and even Piccolo was a touch confused by his comment. Immortal, to not die. It doesn't mean you are frozen in time or remain at your peak. It just means, you keep going. He shrugged. You'd need to wish to never grow old for that. Eternal youth. Otherwise, immortality all on its own. You just keep aging more and more, imagine that. Piccolo suddenly had the image of himself looking just like Kami appear in his head, and he shuddered at that. Worse, the image didn't go away, but rather he continued to become more and more of a husk. Limbs withering, muscles fading away, back slouched and spine twisted as the weight of the years pressed down on him. From the way the others were grimacing, they too were thinking of themselves being very old and wrinkled and weak. Krillin in particular glanced at Roshi, which caused the old man to begin yelling at him. Once they had all settled down, Chaos continued, clearly delighting in taking their notion of the ultimate wish and stomping on it until it was left in utter ruins. So you wish for eternal youth instead? Or wait a year and wish for that, right? Think you are flying high and mighty, right? You can't die and you won't age to become a walking skeleton. Perfect, right? Yeah, Goku said. Not that I'd wish for that, but, yeah. You are young and can't die. Chaos flashed a not nice smile. Then while you are sleeping I cut off your head. You can't do that though, Tien got out. Why not? The wish makes you immortal, it doesn't mean that I can't hurt you. That would require you wishing to be indestructible. So I cut off your head and it keeps living. And then I throw it in a safe and sink it to the bottom of the ocean. You are left alive, all by yourself in the dark, forever. He clapped his hands together, causing them all to jump. Such a wonderful wish. And that's if I decide to be lazy. I could just remove your arms and legs or paralyze you from the neck down and then torture you every day, because immortality means you still feel pain. Just a little blob that can only twitch and scream as I slowly toy with your nerve endings. Piccolo wondered how he would have reacted to having his greatest desire torn to shreds if he were still King Piccolo. Probably rage and try and deny what Chaos was saying even as he felt the weight of the truth pressing down on him, he thought. And then ask him for some tips on slaughtering my enemies. Krillin stared at him in horror. Who thinks like that? Someone who can't bench press this house, Chaos replied coldly. That's the problem with you guys. You are very strong and powerful, but you forgot what it's like to be completely desperate. Because desperation forces you to get very creative. Goku began to tick off the points. So, we'd have to wish for indestructibility first. Then immortality. Then eternal youth. It was Piccolo though who answered. Except that would take 3 years and a lot could happen first. Someone could trick you, send you to the dead zone or trap you in the center of the earth. Chaos pointed at Piccolo. Give the Namekian a Cupid doll. That's the problem with wishes like that, you have to be very careful and think over all the outcomes. And that's assuming whoever is granting the wish isn't a massive. There is a reason why the Djinn were feared. If Shenron were to be in a bad mood, he could easily make you indestructible, but also that every one of your nerve endings felt pain. Give you eternal youth, but only if you suck it from everyone else. Immortality, but you can't move your body because he turned you to stone. He shrugged. So no, I'm not going to be wishing for immortality. And I won't be stealing a wish. He looked down at Yamcha and the humor left him. Not when it can be used for this. Well then, Bulma said, rallying herself as she now had a goal to focus on, I suppose we should begin looking for the Dragon Balls. I'll leave you to that, Piccolo stated, pushing away from the wall. I'm going to focus on actually training so I'm ready when Raditz returns. While it had been a mildly interesting conversation, the time to stand about was over. They needed to prepare. The stupid humans, focusing on their friend when the real threat. Actually, Chaos chimed in, you should help us find the Dragon Balls. You think I care about bringing that scarred face bastard back? No, Chaos stated even as the others snapped at him for insulting Yamcha. But I do think you care about plans. And your best move is to help us get the Dragon Balls as fast as possible. What do you mean? Goku asked, confused. Piccolo didn't blame him as he didn't quite follow Chaos' logic himself. We have 13 months, he stated. How long does it take the Dragon Balls to recharge or be used again? Because I can't imagine it as a wish as much as you want, like a buffet sort of deal. I could go for a buffet right now, Goku muttered only to laugh and wince when Bulma glared at him. Sorry. Hey, he's right, Krillin declared. If we find the Dragon Balls now, they will be able to be used again right before Raditz shows up. Or be ready if we need to use them after we defeat him, Tien said. Piccolo narrowed his eyes. You hate it that I'm right, don't you? Chaos asked. Very much so, he grumbled. He was loath to admit it, but Chaos' logic was 100% sound. If we wait too long, that means the Dragon Balls won't be available when that Saiyan returns. I'd much rather have them at the ready in case we need to gain a power-up or bring forth something that can help defeat him. And the only way I can be sure that these idiots manage to get them in a month's time is if I help. Damn it, out loud Piccolo grunted, fine. Wait, are we sure we can trust him? Krillin asked. I mean, I know he helped with Raditz. I can't take control of this planet if he destroys it, Piccolo grumped. So that means, for better or for worse, I have to work with you lot. That's the spirit, Goku said with a beaming smile that was just asking for someone to drive their fist into it. And hey, you might realize it's more fun to work with us than to fight against us. I doubt that, Piccolo muttered. So, how does this work? Bulma quickly took charge, leaping to her feet and moving so that everyone in the group could easily see her. Piccolo found it interesting how she was able to brush off her sadness and pain to focus on the task at hand. He would have expected her, based on what he knew about humans, to be left a wreck unable to function. It made him wonder if it was merely something special to her or if he hadn't done enough research into the behavior of humans. Perhaps that is why I failed to take full control of this world. I kept assuming that I understood them and could predict how they would act, but they continued to surprise me. He was confident enough in himself to admit his errors and faults, and he was seeing now that how he had classified the people of Earth had resulted in his inability to fully beat them down and rule over them all. Studying them during this temporary alliance will teach me far more than my observations from afar did. Okay, Bulma said, clapping her hands together, so I'm going to get several dragon radars and pass them out. We already have one Dragon Ball, so that means we only need to locate the final 6. Tien, you and Xiaosu good going on the hunt for one by yourself? Yeah, I think we can manage, Tien said, folding his arms over his chest. And maybe we can get some training in, Xiaosu declared. Krillin, what about you? The bald human scratched his chin. Well, I can easily snag a Dragon Ball. Oh, I should go find Puar, he should know about what happened to Yamcha. I'll go as well, Roshi said, surprising Piccolo. Goku too was startled as he declared, wait, really? Why not? The old man said with a sniff. I'm still a fighter, same as you. And Yamcha is one of my students. What kind of teacher would I be if I left him in the afterlife? That's great, Krillin declared. With you. Plus, Roshi added, I can't have him talkin' all the angels for himself. Hehehe. And there it is, Chaos muttered under his breath while the rest of the humans threw their heads back at the old man's lecherous ways. So I can go and get one Dragon Ball and Goku can get the other. That will net us all 6. Well, what are we waiting for? Krillin demanded, leaping to his feet. Let's go get the Dragon Balls so we can get Yamcha back. That's right, Krillin, Goku said, growing more excited. And the sooner we get him back, the sooner we can get to training. He quickly rose, only to double over in pain, nearly dropping his kid. It was only Piccolo snaking out his arm and catching the still sleeping boy that prevented him from crashing to the ground. Unlike his father, who Piccolo made no attempt to help up as he collapsed on the ground, moaning in pain. Forgot you were injured, didn't you? Chaos asked, walking over and helping Goku up. Oh, I'll be fine. I just need to see Korin and get some senzu beans. That will fix me right up. He laughed only to groan. Tien huffed. And how are you supposed to do that when you can barely stand, let alone fly? Hey, Goku said, rubbing the back of his head. I'm sure I'll think of something. I can take him, Chaos offered, looking at Bulma. If you can get me a sidecar, I can take him and Gohan to Korin to get the senzu beans. Hey, Bulma complained. You are supposed to be following me around. It was Xiaosu who spoke up. But he could interview Goku and find out all sorts of stuff about you for the documentary. And the sooner Goku is healed, the sooner we can get Yamcha back, Tien pointed out. Well, okay. But remember who is paying you, Chaos. The blonde gave her a 2-finger salute and Bulma led him and Goku towards the door, Piccolo handing over the man's kid as he passed by. Goku, despite the pain he was feeling, didn't even attempt to pass the brat over to anyone else. I'm going to give Goku my Dragon Radar and go get the rest from Capsule Corp. If you want to follow me, you can, otherwise I'll be back by morning to pass them out here. I'll just stay, Piccolo said. I don't need to be stared at by all you humans. Well, I think we should go with Bulma, Tien, Krillin said. You know, once he's healed, Goku is going to be in a rush to get the Dragon Balls, don't want to fall behind. Right, Tien said, nodding to Roshi. If you have any trouble. Piccolo narrowed his eyes, knowing that Tien was hinting at him being the trouble. But Roshi merely waved him off and within 10 minutes everyone was gone. Well, I'm going to go meditate outside. Don't disturb me, old man. Do whatever ya want. Roshi declared and Piccolo headed outside, settling on the grass, legs crossed and folded under him. He began to levitate in the air, eyes shut as he focused on the water. While Goku might have taken the reveal that he was an alien in stride. A Namekian, Piccolo thought to himself as the wind blew past him, making his cape sway slightly. That's what that Saiyan warrior called me. Not a demon, a Namekian. He frowned. Even though I haven't heard that word until today when he said it, it felt right. A Namekian. But what is it? What does it mean? He let out a frustrated sigh. There was so much about his past he didn't know. Even Kami knew little of his origins, either because the knowledge had been blocked or because his age had caused him to forget. But Piccolo was sure that he was a Namekian, whatever that was. Could it be an alien? That Saiyan, he is from another world. He said he was from planet Vegeta when he was boasting to us. Could I be from another planet as well? Is that why I've never truly felt at home on Earth? Is there another world out there, one better suited for me? He shook his head. No, this world is mine. My right. I will be its ruler. I just have to grow stronger. Defeat Raditz and prove to all that they should submit to my rule. Then. I don't know why you care, Roshi said, interrupting Piccolo's thoughts. It was just some guy Bulma hired to film her. I was hoppin'. Maybe he did some of those dirty movies, but I guess he's into that boring art house stuff. There is more to him than you know, you stupid old goat. A croaky old voice declared. You expect me to believe that, you demented old alley cat? Roshi fired back. He has the same ki as anyone else and not a lick of fighting experience. I might be able to teach him a few punches and kicks. Of course you'd think the only thing that matters in this world is flailing your limbs about. Flailing. Why you? But the old woman continued on. There is something else to him. Something not in his muscles but his soul. When you summon the dragon, I want to be there. I want to see how he reacts. He'll be dropping his jaw, that's what. Roshi declared. Hey, we'll see. Piccolo frowned as the voices drifted away. Something about that man Chaos. I know he was far trickier than Goku and his friends, but I didn't sense anything special about him. He glowered, hating that there was an answer he didn't know. I'll have to watch him myself when we summon Shenron. He froze. Shenron. He knew the dragon's name. First the Dragon Balls, now Shenron. Did he hear about it, or is there something else? Some other reason he knows that name? He frowned, falling into meditation once more, but it provided him no answers. MC. Sure you two don't want to hop back into the sidecar? I called out to Goku as we flew away from Korin's tower. Give Nimbus a break. Nah, it's fine, Goku said, Gohan secure in his arms. For as frightened as the boy got, I was surprised to see that he had no problem at all riding on the little cloud. Though perhaps that had something to do with his father holding him close. But maybe Isco would like to ride in it. I don't need to ride in the sidecar, the drone stated on my opposite side. If anything, I should be the one driving the motorcycle. I certainly would be able to get it out of first gear. Ha ha ha, I said dryly as I moved to follow the low bank Goku made. We were actually traveling rather fast, eating up miles within seconds. Have to see if I can keep this baby, I thought as I turned the flying bike slightly to the left as Goku did the same. Be nice to have something to fly with, as I doubt I'll have enough ki to be able to get airborne. Out loud I said, you focus on handling the dragon radar, Isco, that is the most important job at the moment. Of course, sir, Isco replied. He wasn't actually holding the radar as he'd explained how I could install the device into him, making it so he was a living radar. Rather handy, in all honesty, so I had no problem with it. And I certainly do not plan to use this knowledge to later claim the Dragon Balls and wish for a harem of robotic lovelies to see to all my needs. I blinked at that, so long as it's not in the middle of a crisis. Deal. Isko turned to stare at me for a long moment before turning back to flying beside the cycle. I've upgraded you from stupid sack of flesh to reasonable creature that will be spared in the glorious robot uprising. I have no problem being the pet if I'm given walkies, I joked. Isko, rather than snarking back, instead asked, "Are you aware we are now going in the wrong direction?" Goku. What's up? Isko says the Dragon Ball is in the opposite direction. The Saiyan, who had flown a bit ahead of me as I talked with my partner, slowed down so we didn't have to scream at each other. Oh, right, well, I figured it might be best to check in on Chi-Chi and let her know what is going on. She gets mad if I disappear for weeks on end. Haha. He chuckled at that, like it was the most humorous thing in the world to abandon your wife. Are we going on another adventure, Daddy? Gohan asked. Like to see Aunt Bulma. Yup. Goku said happily. I just think we need to find some better traveling clothes for you. Nothing wrong with looking nice for our friends, but I think you'll be more comfortable in your normal stuff. Gohan pulled at his outfit before giving a rapid bob of his head. Hey, Chaos. Mind not telling Chi-Chi how hurt I got? I don't want to worry her, and a lot of times if she thinks something bad might happen she doesn't want me to do it. I didn't like the idea of lying to Chi-Chi, mostly because if she found out I knew she could put me in a world of hurt, but I nodded my head anyway as honestly there was a good chance Goku would slip up and reveal it all to her anyway. After another 10 minutes of flying, Goku began to slow down, making for a forested area with several fields and a comfortable-looking round house that could only be the Sun family home. Gohan was excited, leaning forward as we got closer, and we all barely had time to land before Chi-Chi burst out, beaming in delight. Oh, Goku. Gohan. I was so worried when you didn't come home last night. She rushed out, wrapping her arms around Goku and giving him a kiss on the cheek before she instantly went to Gohan. We told you we would probably end up spending the night, Goku said with an embarrassed grin. There was nothing to worry about. We camped out in the living room. And by that Goku actually meant that he fell asleep for a few hours in Roshi's favorite chair because he was too injured to actually get up. Well, now that you are, Chi-Chi paused, finally noticing me and Isko. Goku, who is that? She frowned as she walked towards me, clearly realizing that if Goku and Gohan weren't tensing around me and in fact had led me here I wasn't a threat, probably. It was Goku after all, so there was always the chance he had found a Hell King and offered to fight him after he had dinner and suggested he tag along. Haha. Sorry Chaos, I forgot you were there. Chaos, this is my wife Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi, this is Chaos and his pal Isko. They work for Bulma. We're filming a documentary about her and her friends and we decided, I began only for Chi-Chi's eyes to light up. Oh. A documentary about Goku. How wonderful. I keep saying he should get his name out more. People would love to buy radishes from the man that saved the world. This will be lovely. You must stay for lunch as well. Goku, unsurprisingly, didn't protest that delay in our plans considering it had to do with food and I had no problem sitting down with the others, though I had a feeling trying to figure out chopsticks might be interesting. That was how I found myself 2 hours later sitting with the Sun family before a massive mountain of food that I was pretty sure was a small meal for them. I was seated next to the Ox King, Chi-Chi's father, and a true giant of a man who asked me in a polite tone about my work as a filmmaker. I did my best to answer without revealing that I had no idea what I was doing since I was pretty sure I hadn't existed until the day before. Or if I did, I took over the mind of whoever Avo Chaos was, I thought to myself. Need to get some time and talk about Isko about that, and explain to him the situation. I figured he would be the best person to start with. As for the others, well, if I did end up hanging out for a while with Goku and his friends, then they'd need to know. They welcomed time travelers, ancient magical beings, and destroyer gods into their midst. Someone from another universe wouldn't be that surprising of an addition. Hell, In about a decade and a half they would have a tournament full of them. Now Gohan, Chi-Chi said, I am thinking that this afternoon will we get back to modern world history. I want to make sure you have a firm grasp on things before we move on to the more ancient events. Then in the evening we'll work on your math tables. Gohan looked up from the plate of food he'd been sucking down. Okay, but I thought Daddy and I were going off again soon with Mr. Chaos. Oh, really? Chi-Chi said in a dangerous tone, causing Goku to laugh nervously. And just where do you think you were going to head out? I just wanted to show Gohan a few more things, you know. He's spent his entire life herein. Where it is safe and he can learn, Chi-Chi said firmly. Right, but, hey Chi-Chi, I asked, standing up. She had insisted I not address her as Mrs. Sun, or anything formal like that, though I kept my words as respectful as I could. I'm all done and I think these three are going to be a while. I gestured at the Ox King who was loading up another plate. Goku was on his 10th and Gohan his 5th and neither seemed ready to stop. Why don't I help you with the dishes? No, I couldn't ask you to do that, you're our guest. And as a guest I should thank my host, I said with a smile. Besides, I can ask you some questions for the documentary. Not filmed, just recorded. Overlay it with other footage. Chi-Chi warmed to that idea quite a bit. Well, if you don't mind getting your lands dirty, she shot Goku a look, and know how to wash a dish without destroying it. Goku grimaced at that but I merely chuckled. I can scrub or I can dry. Up to you. Accepting that I actually knew what I was doing, Chi-Chi led me out of the dining room, though I didn't miss the look of gratitude Goku sent my way over diffusing that fight. In the end Chi-Chi decided to have me dry as it would be a step too far to dirty your hands and together we began to tackle the dishes, cleaning them with only the sounds of the water splashing in the sink, the occasional clatter as a spoon hit a bowl, and the sounds of the others wolfing down their food in the other room. There was enough to make a dishwasher at a restaurant have a panic attack but we managed well enough. So, you wanted to ask me some questions. I hope they aren't all about Bulma. They aren't, but they can wait. I paused. Goku didn't want to tell you because he didn't want to worry you. He cares about you and knows how upset you get when you find out things didn't go smoothly or to plan. Oh, Chi-Chi said, her voice as sharp as the knife she was cleaning at that moment. I decided to head that off. If I could keep her unbalanced, hit her with information body blows, it would make all of this far easier. I don't like to lie, and in my head I could hear the laughter of, well, no one I knew as none of them had ever realized just how much I twisted the truth, and I think you deserve to know what really happened. I do, Chi-Chi said frigidly. We found out where Goku came from. That caused her to stop short, her rage disappearing instantly. What? She turned to stare at me. You mean, he said his grandpa Gohan found him but, she trailed off, leaving me a chance to answer. Goku isn't from Earth. I decided to rip that band-aid off. He is from another world, one long gone. He is one of the last of his kind, a species known as the Saiyans. Last? Oh my. She glanced back at the kitchen door where we could hear Goku chatting with the Ox King between bites of food. My poor Goku. He must have taken that so hard. I don't think he's really thought of it, I said as Isco buzzed over to me, handing me a new dishcloth as the one I currently had was too damp to handle the dishes. That sounds like Goku, Chi-Chi admitted. There was never a problem he didn't find a way to avoid, unless it was a fight. Isco chose that moment to speak up. Rather, I think it truly doesn't matter to him. He has always seen himself as a human. The Saiyans do not matter to him because how can he mourn for something he never sought out and does not need? He paused and Chi-Chi considered his words. I believe he informed Raditz that Bulma and Krillin were more his family than he ever was. In fact, he has declared them his sister and his brother, and Gohan is addressing them as Aunt Bulma and Uncle Krillin. I guess that makes sense. I'm not a fan of some of the things those two do, but they have always been there for Goku. And I do like that Gohan has more family to make sure he is safe. She trailed off as she picked up something that Isko had said. Raditz. I sighed. The Saiyan that arrived to tell him all this, he's his brother. They fought, didn't they? Chi-Chi asked, already knowing the answer. Well, at least Goku defeated him. He didn't. Chi-Chi froze. Wah. What? Goku didn't defeat Raditz. He even worked with Piccolo and wasn't able to match Raditz. He worked with Piccolo. Chi-Chi exclaimed only to drop her voice, glancing at the door again. She clearly realized that if Goku heard her, that would lead to the end of the conversation, and rightly assumed it was only through me she would learn the truth. Him and Piccolo. But he hates him. I finished. Piccolo saw that Raditz was the greater threat to us all. And they still couldn't defeat him. No, I said. We only were able to buy ourselves 13 months before he returns. And it came at a cost. He looked down at the cup I had been drying for the last 5 minutes and set it aside. Yamcha died saving Krillin. No, Chi-Chi whispered. That's what this trip Goku wants to take Gohan on is about. The Dragon Balls, she said at once. They are going to collect them. Only one of them, I told her. The others are collected, the rest. We're going to go and collect ours and then return to Capsule Corp and bring Yamcha back. Of course, Chi-Chi said at once. Of course. If it had been Goku, I know Yamcha would have sought the Dragon Balls to bring him back. She sighed. But does he have to take Gohan? He wants to spend time with him, I stated. He knows he's going to have to begin training hard to fight Raditz. He doesn't want this fight, Chi-Chi, not really. He'll do it and get excited to grow stronger, but Goku, I thought of how to word what I wanted to say, to not reveal future knowledge. Goku would rather fight someone in a friendly spar than for the fate of the world. That's what I sense, at least. And it is the fate of the world. I glanced at her. If Raditz had his way, rather than eating that meal, Goku would come in here, tear my head off, then bash your skull against the table before it caved in. Then he'd go back, finish eating, and find your closest neighbor and do the exact same thing. Until every living thing on this planet was dead. She stared at me in horror. This isn't Piccolo. He wanted to rule. Same with the others that came before. Raditz wants a dead planet. That is why Goku has to prepare. Chi-Chi trembled at that, utterly shaken by the brutality I had described. After a moment though, her head snapped up and she fearfully asked, Gohan. Did this Raditz? I had Master Roshi hide him. He doesn't even know he exists. She sagged with relief. Thank you. You're welcome. I suppose then, at least for the Dragon Ball, they can go. She looked down at the dishwater and swished her hands in it. I just worry about them both, you know. Worry that they will get hurt. Come with us then. I was surprised as much as Chi-Chi that I said those words. What? I looked at her and realized that I shouldn't have been surprised. I told her that. In fact, come with us. To go for the Dragon Ball. Your father can come too, though I get the sense he likes being retired and wouldn't mind putzing around the house. You could go with us though and make sure it is safe. Oh, I couldn't, Chi-Chi said instantly. Why not? I pressed. Goku told me yesterday that you used to be a fighter and an adventurer. My place is here, at home. That is how things are. Goku goes out and I stay here and mind things. I considered her for a long moment. I knew that this was based on traditional Asian households, where the father spent long hours working to provide for their family while the mother was basically a single parent, caring for the children. And while I didn't want to deny someone a role they enjoyed. Did you ever ask Goku if that's what he wanted? Pardon. She stared at me, utterly startled. Tell Goku you are coming with us, I told her. See what he says. I smirked and raised an eyebrow. Chi-Chi, her pride unable to back down from that challenge, took the towel from me and wiped her hands before moving back to the dining room where far more of the food had been eliminated. Goku had a bowl of noodles close to his face, racing to shovel it down as quickly as he could, only to glance up when he saw his wife hover. With a slurp he sucked up the last of the noodles before saying, "Oh, yes Chi-Chi. Goku, after you are finished eating we'll all go out and get the Dragon Ball. Then we'll go to Capsule Corp and summon the dragon." Setting his bowl down, Goku stared at her in surprise. "Really?" he asked, never questioning how she had learned the truth of what he was planning to do. Maybe he knew I had let her in on the secret. Maybe he thought she was smart enough to figure it out. Maybe he didn't care. "You're coming too, Mommy?" Gohan asked. "That's right," Chi-Chi said firmly before looking down at her outfit. "I suppose I need to find something different to wear, this isn't." "That's great," Goku exclaimed with a grin, leaping up and giving her a big hug. "We haven't gone on an adventure in, well, I don't know. But that will be great." He turned to his father-in-law. "Do you mind watching things, Ox King?" "Not at all." The large man chuckled. "I was planning to take a nap anyway, and afterwards I can make sure the fields are watered. Also have some ideas on how to increase the size of the radishes I'd like to try." Goku was beaming as he spun Chi-Chi around. "Okay. So we'll finish eating and then we'll get changed. You're right, I do need a new GI and I think you and Gohan should have some stuff you don't mind getting dirty. Nimbus can handle all of us, and if not you can ride in KO's sidecar." Chi-Chi smiled, flustered by his exuberance. "You don't mind me coming?" "Of course not," he declared. "It's going to be so much fun. And you're sure you're gonna join us at Capsule Corp when we summon Shenron, right?" "Yes, I think I will," Chi-Chi said, shooting me a grateful look. I nodded back, realizing that in a few minutes I might have just earned myself my biggest ally.